We can finish this one. Alright, let's do timers. So I had to right click here and select import and select general and find existing project into workspace. So I have to go find that project and start my first GUI, right? And hit finish. And now it is here. Right. And that's the stars, but they stop. So let's see what we did here. So what we're gonna use is a interface to run this timer. Let me see. So I need to add the event in my frame. Event. And we're gonna change this with Cosmos Business. So I'm gonna add another field. I'm gonna call it timer. And this timer, let's see, I'm gonna need a private class to handle, we call it ticks. Every time the timer executes, goes to sleep. It's a thread class, and all I told you before is just copy and do that and take my word that it's gonna work. But now we're gonna use a timer, and we are not going to get into much detail about threads and how they do concurrent operations and how they do protect the data and stuff like that, because that will be actually a senior class. So we're gonna just learn what we did using an interface. So we're gonna use a private class, and I'm gonna call it, I don't know, because it's in the frame, let's call this frame handler, I guess, or window handler. And it's gonna implement the same action listener interface. And I'm gonna add the unimplemented method, which is this action perform. And I'm gonna say if whatever, well, this one called argument zero. Get source was my timer, I think we call it. We'll do something. So what are we going to do? I'm gonna remove this I'm gonna cut this portion. I'm gonna paste it here. Move down the stars and repaint. That's all it does. And I'm gonna delete the entire move cosmos method. So that's pretty simple there. So there's, besides the action listener, there's other listeners. There's the mouse listener, mouse move listener, keyboard listener. If we have time, we're gonna do one more. So where was my timer here? So here's my constructor. And here at my timer, I'm gonna instantiate it. Now, it says I cannot just create a timer. It says the only constructor available, if you notice, says there's an integer and an action listener. So we created a private class, right, for our action listener. So this class, what would we call it? Wind handler, I think we call it. Is that what we call it? No. What did I call it? Window handler. Right. And we're gonna just do it here. Just instantiate it there. So I have a handler already. So my timer wants two things. Wants how often is an int, and I think we had it like every 20 milliseconds. And who's gonna handle every tick there. And you think, oh, I'm done, let's run it, and then nothing happens. So when you go use a stopwatch, just because you have a stopwatch doesn't mean it's running, right? You have to click start and stop. Same thing with the timer. You gotta click start and stop. Well, it'll stop when the program ends, so I can just start it. And look what happens here. And that'll never stop. So it's every 20 milliseconds, the stars are moving. That's pretty cool, I think. We can make more stuff too. We can make some suns, and they can move at a different speed too. So if you look at our star, the stars are moving at 1 pixel per tick, right? But nothing stops me from adding another field called interval. Interval. And when the start is called, I'm gonna set my interval to 1. And when I move down, instead of current y plus 1, I'm just gonna call it current y plus interval. That has changed nothing in the actual functionality, right? You can see it's still moving down. But what if I make another constructor? And this is another question in your exam. Star. And that takes an interval. Can I just do this and my program will work? No. Why? Because the other stuff, the X is not set, the random is not set. So how do I call the previous constructor? And I already told you this, but refresh. I can use the keyword this. So it calls the previous constructor that has everything else. At that point, the interval is set to 1, and then I change it to whatever I passed. So now, I can have another array. Instead of Cosmos, I'm gonna call it Suns, for instance. And I'm gonna have less suns than stars. Total ecstatic and max suns. And I'm gonna have, let's say, 15 suns. I wanna make the sun bigger and I wanna make him yellow. So I can say suns, or I should say lowercase suns to be consistent. Suns equals new, still a star class, but it's gonna be max suns, right? I'm gonna get rid of that. So this one creates all stars, creates all the stars, and I'm gonna create all the suns here. So I still need a for loop here, but it will be less than the max suns. And the suns are gonna move at a different speed. The suns are gonna move faster, so I'm gonna say every 3 pixels instead of every 1 pixel. So it will be suns I equals new star, and I'm gonna move it every 3 pixels instead. Alright. That's good. So now I create my suns. Here I paint the suns. Now I gotta paint the stars. Now I gotta paint the suns. So here, draw suns, the stars, and I'm gonna draw the suns here. G2 set color. I'm gonna set it yellow. And it'll be similar. Another loop here. Right? I mean, I could use the same current star variable because it's still. And here, instead of making 2 pixels, I'm gonna make it 4 pixels wide. So I'm gonna make it bigger. Alright, so then when I do this handler, I also move these sons. Alright, let's see what it looks like. They're my sons. Maybe it should be the other way around, huh? The sons go slower and they start faster. It doesn't matter. Questions? That looks to be working fine. See if you can, I mean, since you have this, see if you can draw, using an image, you can Google it and add like a spaceship or something in the middle. Now, remember enumerators? We said what if we instead of moving it down, we move it up? Or we move it sideways? So if we move it up, we can say, right, if the current y is less than 0, that means we have reached the edge. Then the y should be at the bottom now, because now the stars are going up. Should be the max height here. And we probably can randomize the x. Otherwise, we can say the current y is simply 1 less, right? Set y equals current y minus the interval. So if I were to change this move down to move up, they go up. But what if I wanna set the direction using my arrow keys? How will I do that? Well, you can implement this. Well, first we need somehow to say what direction we're going. All right. So the best way to do is create first an enumerator. You can make it private or public. And I'm gonna call it direction. And it's gonna say down, up, left, or right. And I'm gonna have a current direction. And when I create my program, I'm gonna default this to my current direction to be going down. Oh, I had to say direction got down there. So right now I'm just saying by default use it down. And in here I can do, we can use a switch statement. Current direction. And we'll say case down. And then we'll say, sorry, Cosmos move down. And then break. And case up. Move up and then break. Similarly, I have to do for the suns. All right. So if I run this, nothing has changed. It should be just going down. So this class implements the action listener, but there's another interface called key listener. And this key listener is kind of like your keyboard. And notice it's now is red squiggly saying you need to add the unimplemented method. And my unimplemented method are this. They're like 3. The one I'm going to use is called key pressed. So these ones I don't really care for. I just need to have them because they're required by the interface. But I really don't care. This is the one I'm going to use. And this, I can do a simply if statement here. So like if the get key code actually is equals to the key event dot, I want to do VK going up, then my current direction is simply direction dot up. And I'm gonna say if it's down, I'm gonna repeat that for down. So you think, oh, okay, I'm done. I'm gonna run this and then, oops, I move it and nothing happens. It's because you haven't added the listener to the keyboard. So when we create this here, before we show it here, I'm gonna say this, oops, I don't know the name of the method, so I'm gonna use the keyboard this and then set key, add key listener. It's gonna be the same handler. See what happens now. Yeah, I can move it in the direction I want with the keys. You think you can try to do the left and right? It's not so hard. All you have to do is add this up, left and right here, and implement them here. Yeah, of course you had to set it here. What's the current direction? It's pretty cool. That covers everything about interfaces. Questions? If we got time, I'm gonna add the Millennium Falcon in the middle and it'll rotate.